Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
All right. Hello, everyone.
What's good, everybody?
And welcome. We are in March now, officially. March is great. We're heading towards Spring Forward. And we're also in Women's History Month.
Yes.
So for this RQ Table Talks, we got to introduce ourselves, of course. I am Dr. Marcia and next to me I have...
I'm Pastor Kimberly Mann.
Yes, and together we are RQ Table Talks, where we keep it real.
Where we keep it relevant
and
where we keep it raw.
And I'm super excited because this month is a special recordings for RQ Table Talks in that it is Women's History Month.
Yes.
And so we want to spotlight and highlight women of all nationalities, races, women of our church. And we want to talk about some of the topics, what's good church, the real world, and my feelings that deal with women. So myself and Pastor Mann are going to kick it off for this week. And then the goal is the next time you watch, we'll have some other female panelists join us and we'll shake things up a little bit, but we're super excited about that.
Absolutely. And we want you, don't tune it off if you're a male. Don't click off and say, that's not for me. No, our conversations are for everybody.
Yes.
And this week we are just highlighting some of the, some of the issues, some of the concerns, some of the hot topics.
Right.
And we welcome all perspectives. We welcome all people to be a part of our virtual and online family. So yes, brothers, this is for you. Because listen, if you are here, that means there's a woman somewhere in your life. Okay. That means you were born from a woman.
Yeah, I was about to say, we all are connected to a woman. We all were born from a woman. And so, we're just super excited.
Absolutely.
So let's jump into it. Let's get into what's good, church.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Hello, everyone.
We're back.
So we are back for our first segment of What's Good Church. For all of our new watchers or people that are tuning in, welcome, first of all.
Hey, family.
But if you are new to this, What's Good Church just simply talks about some of the issues that are happening in our local church that might not be discussed, on the pulpit. And so we want to jump into this. So myself and Pastor Mann, we both lead out within the church. Pastor Mann has been all the way up to the conference level in leadership. And so we want to talk about this episode on What's Good Church. We want to talk about you being a female pastor. I'm sure you were an elder at one point as well. Me being a female elder.
Yes, and one of our newly appointed elders. Shout out to they got to put some respect on her name. Elder, okay, Dr. Marcia and okay?
Yes. So we both serve in these roles here at Oakwood University Church. But we have to be honest. Our denomination, for those who are tuning in, we are Seventh-day Adventist.
Yes.
And so it is a part of, your evangelical denominations and religious sects. But within our specific denomination, the Seventh-day Adventist, it is a male-dominated religious sect.
Yes.
And so let's jump into it. So how is it, first of all, being a pastor? I'm going to ask a two-part question. How is it being a female pastor within the Seventh-day Adventist Church? And then my second question is, how is it being a female pastor at a church the size of Oakwood University?
Double-sided question. So, for a long time, I was actually embarrassed to say that I was a pastor. Not that I didn't believe that I was called, but it just came with so much tension, right? I'd be like, hey, I'm a pastor. Like, or people be like, hey, I'm a pastor. And they'd be like, oh, wow. or hey, I'm a pastor. Oh, wait. Are you allowed to do that? So it would come with so much kind of question. And I just got kind of tired of like having to feel like I had to defend myself every time. So for a while, I really did not want people to know that I was a pastor. It's very interesting because, and it's not just Adventism. There are other religions where like being a female pastor is like, no, So for me, being a female pastor in Adventism is amazing in that I have a lot, when I have like the support that I have is real support. Like, people who support my ministry. I have been blessed to be able to literally travel the world. I have been to every continent except Asia. That is on my bucket list. So I've been to every continent. I've been North America, South America, Africa, Australia, and Europe.
Nice.
So this has been a blessing in ministry that people have identified with my calling and been willing to invite me places. Now, the caveat to that is I've gone places to where they'll put pastor in the program for all the men, but put sister or elder next to my name. Like, they won't call me pastor. I've been at places where people will say, I don't want you to pray over me because you're a woman. I only want a man to pray over me. I've been to scenarios where they put the male pastor in a hotel. They put me in someone's basement. So there's discrimination there. And it's been tough because, when God puts you at certain positions in certain places, you end up being in rooms with other people. And so one of the biggest pushback I would get will be like, how are you a pastor of a church that doesn't believe that you're called to preach the gospel? And so for me, that was always challenging because it definitely felt like a double-edged sword. Like, how you gonna let me go to your school, give me a degree, and then tell me that my degree doesn't equally qualify me as much as a man who got the same degree from the same school? So it's been challenging in that way, but I have found far more friends, far more advocates, far more supporters than people who don't. And I don't let them cause me to lose sleep. Now, at a church as large as Oakwood, to be honest, it is a huge blessing because the people who don't like me are sheep in the crowd. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure that people have said it to me. Look, people have been like, I'll preach, and they'll be like, oh, that was a wonderful presentation. But when Pastor Snell preaches, they be like, oh, he preach. So when I speak, I'm speaking. When a man preaches, he's preaching, So, but outside of that, I love it because I get to operate in my gifting, and that's been a huge blessing. I don't have to prove myself. I don't have to compete. I don't have to, prove that I belong at Oakwood Church. For those of you who aren't familiar, Oakwood Church is one of the largest Black churches in the Seventh-day Adventist denomination in North America. And I just count it as a privilege. And for all the doors that were closed, all the tables I wasn't invited to, God has shown up and shown out. And I just believe my time here is proof that what God has for you is for you.
Amen. Yes. She's 100% correct in establishing what Oakwood University Church is. So for me, I'm on a totally different side of things. So it's interesting. A lot of people, because of what I do at Oakwood and how I participate, actually think I'm a pastor. Like, it's hilarious. They're like, the pastoral team you all got. I'm like, I'm not a pastor.
Wow.
They're like, oh, I just assumed. So it's interesting how when you serve in certain positions and you do so much in a church that people assume that the only reason why you're doing that is because you're of pastoral leadership, which, I mean, elders are, the next thing. But in and of itself, here at Oakwood, we have a very large roster of actual pastors. And then let's not even talk about the retired pastors. So I'm coming in it at a different lens. Being an elder it comes with some of those same things that you spoke on. At Oakwood, so we're in a very good position here.
Yeah, it's a blessing.
Number one, we have our head elder who is like not, and this is no diss to anybody this age, but not basically Biden or Trump's age group, right?
Yeah.
Like,
he's not a hater. Our head elder not a hater.
He's not like, and he's not a baby boomer or somebody that's older. Yeah. So with that being said, He's part of a generation that just thinks a little bit differently, maybe from the traditions of Christianity, not just Seventh-day Adventist Christianity in general. So that makes it very much so an environment that is good because you're able to be a part of this ministry and be a part of what you believe God has called you to be. Now, what is interesting is that I am probably the youngest female elder at the church. So with that, I kind of have two things that I deal with. Number one, I'm a female, but then number two, my age.
Ageism is a real thing.
So it's like a lot of times you're in a meeting and you may say something or do something and it's like, wait, she's old enough to be my granddaughter,
right?
or my daughter, or what are you mentioning or talking about? So it's good that I have leadership that's like wanting to hear from young adults who are elders in this space because we are the ones that need to continue to ensure that the work is done. Because the next generation who is going to fulfill the gospel are looking at us as examples. So I will say it's very rewarding. I think that because I am at Oakwood, my experience as an elder has been fantastic. I don't know.
Ain't everybody's testimony.
I don't know if that translates to other churches. I will say though, being from Atlanta, Georgia, and living within the Huntsville area, as well as I'll give a shout out to Chicagoland and Lake Region in that area where I lived as well. Those conferences do a very good job in ensuring that young people are utilized no matter whether you're male or female. And so we're very active. You see us up on program a lot. Now, what is interesting is that even though our ordination was this year, myself and about 11 other elders, we have been in our roles for a few years, which people don't realize. So, I will say though, the ordination was a wonderful experience because it kind of made it official. That you're like, okay, now when you see her up praying, you know that it is ordained.
It's official,
by God and by Oakwood University Church. She's just not a random person, and she's not on the pastoral team. She's not a random person just praying.
She's here with purpose.
Yes, this is the Holy Spirit. But we want to hear from you. How is it at your churches? You know, if you're I would love to hear from female pastors and elders and others who may be married to one or in relation with one or their children or any of those sorts. How is your experience? Because it might not be the same.
And, you know, it's very different. Even though, you know, I'm here in a very welcoming environment, it is definitely a shift. So, for instance, all the parking spaces say pastor's wife. Right?
Mercy,
and I
Lord.
have a pastor's husband. You see what I'm saying? So like, you know, even when we have come to sitting down, it's, the pastor's wives sit here, or it's a pastor's wives luncheon. And so, you know, as us having a male as my spouse, it's definitely different. Even just things like as a pastor, I had a newborn. And so I am having to juggle preaching as well as nursing a baby and having a safe space to do that. When I got ordained, it was so interesting because I had just had a baby 6 weeks before my ordination. And they had us standing for 4.5 hours. No one brought me a chair. My stitches actually popped, and I ended up having to go back and get them redone. But nobody was thinking about the needs. You see what I'm saying? No one was thinking about, hey, there's a woman here and we need to be a little bit more mindful. So that's something that I find that I'm having to, as a woman in leadership, having to kind of, I need you all to be mindful. Like maybe dudes could stand for 4.5 hours because y'all got on flat shoes, but you want me to be in 6-inch heels so I look more feminine after I just had a baby, but you also don't want to give me a chair. So things like that have been interesting things. So I think one of the things I would like for us to talk about in the future is why women in leadership in the church have to be more unassuming then, because they want us to kind of dim it down. But like when I see women who are pastors and elders in other churches, they are stylish. They come out with it. They're unapologetically, they show up in their spaces. Whereas I think sometimes in the church we want women to lead, but don't look like a leader. Like don't look.
And she's referencing the Seventh-day Adventist Church when she says church, by the way.
Yes, don't look too flashy. Don't look too, confident, because then that looks like a threat. So that's something I think I want to put like a sticky note on. We gotta talk about that.
So you gotta stay tuned in the future. We will talk about it.
Yes.
But right now, we want to hear what are your thoughts? Please light up the comment section. Let us know what are your thoughts about this.
Do you have a female pastor at your church or female elders?
How do these things take place at your church?
Absolutely.
We acknowledge that Oakwood University is not the norm, but we pray that one day it will become a standard, especially within Adventism.
Absolutely.
So let us know. But stay tuned, because we're
coming up to
gotta
the
get
real
to the real world.
Yes. So coming up, our next topic is the real world. And we're talking about what's happening in our world. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. In the meantime, tell somebody to tune in. And we want to see you back here in just a few moments.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
Welcome. We are back.
We're back.
One of these days, we got to do a see what happens behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. BTS, behind the scenes. Okay. So we're here and we're at our next topic called the real world. And in this particular segment, we want to talk about what's happening in our media. So we know that right now in our world, the media has been blowing up, covering all the things that have been happening in our government, happening at our airports, happening in our world. And it has been a crazy, what is this, two months? Or it's 7 weeks since the election.
We're not even 90 days in, folks.
Yeah, it's been crazy. And so recently, MSNBC has had some major staffing changes while being there. And so they fired Joy Reid, who was the only African American woman who had her own show. And it happened very quickly. They said that this next airing will be her last airing. So it wasn't like a lead up. It wasn't a farewell. It was just she's gone, and all of her staffing and support staffing is gone. And they just sent it like an email, like, hey, this is your last week. Your show's been canceled. And on top of that, in that same week, almost 4 people of color or minorities within the organization were all their shows were canceled or they were fired. So right now it's a big firestorm of why is MSNBC firing all of these people, but also why would you, as what is supposed to be a nonpartisan news station, firing this Black woman with 1 week left?
By the way,
one show.
Just a few things to clear out. First of all, her show, for those who didn't know about it, was called Read Out.
Read Out.
So it was a play on her last name. Her numbers were not down
at all.
So she had one of the highest grossing shows on MSNBC.
So it wasn't performance based, is what you're saying?
No.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
it wasn't performance based. It had nothing to do with her not showing up and coming to work and doing what she's paid to do.
Exactly.
Matter of fact, she took a pay cut when they brought her back in for the year that's now ended and terminated. She was at $3 million and it decreased to 1.5, and she still came back.
That part.
And still continued to work. So you have to question this, First of all, outside of her, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is no other Black female
news correspondent
that has their own show on a major news network like MSNBC.
She is the Oprah Winfrey of news.
And you got to think about this isn't the first time this has happened. This happened to Tamron Hall. This happened to Michelle. This happened to a few other women who now have, talk shows on daytime TV, but this happened to them. And so you have to ask yourself, what was this really about? I think that it is wrong because, first of all, no matter what news media outlet you choose, there's going to be biases on each side. And that's intentional, right? So whether she worked for Fox or MSNBC, whether she was on the left or the right, that is not the issue. The issue is she did her job.
Exactly.
And what I liked about Joy was that she was unapologetic about speaking truth in a time of false narratives.
Mercy.
And standing up for and speaking out against the injustices that were happening even overseas, despite that not being the allegiance here in America.
Yeah.
And so when you're talking about those people, I was doing my research on this, and one guy who is a media news person, but he's in the YouTube and digital space, he said, you know what? He said, all these people who recently got fired, you want to know what they had in common? They spoke out against Gaza and what was happening there and how Israel is committing genocide.
Yes.
And they spoke out with truth, with conviction, with authority, and they were not scared to say what they needed to say.
Exactly.
And he said, coincidentally, these people, he said that Joy Reid was probably at the time the number one national news anchor to speak out against Gaza. And then the second was an Indian man. Both of them getting fired within the same week.
Exactly. And what people don't realize is it's not just Joy Reid when she is fired. It's the staffers, the production team, the writers. It's all the people who behind the scenes, because this network has now viewed this Black woman as a threat. When she is fired, you're affecting all of these other fallouts. And so, as women, it's so interesting because we're told to be excellent, right? But then even excellence isn't enough, right? Even being at your best, it comes with this price tag of you're always on the edge of I can be excellent and even then still lose everything.
Well, and then it's just hypocrisy and it's ridiculous, right? Black females are the most educated minority in the world. And so again, what is the basis of this? Because she had a difference of opinion, because people who have money didn't like her, that's wrong. And this causes an issue for the next Black woman who would be considered for news media. Now she has to think in her mind, can I be myself? Do I have to tailor what I say and do specifically for a certain audience?
Right.
What is considered too Black? What is considered too this and too that? And so it's really a problem. And Roland Martin, essentially, he's saying that, hey, what's happening to Joy Reid means that we need to, for sure, keep Black media.
Absolutely.
And we need to make it relevant.
And I think that speaks to the fact that as people, we need our own spaces because we will always have to compromise to be in someone else's space. But see, I think this is what happens to women, right? So you'll have one woman who does really, really well. And the minute somebody doesn't like that or whatever, that woman is punished. And as a result, all the other women, it's kind of like we're going to make an example out of this one. So that way, everybody else coming after now then has this sense of fear or this angst or this hesitation to really speak their minds. And I think it is the old snake in a new skin. Right. It is that same mentality of historic slavery that punishes the outspoken slave harshly so that the other slaves stay in line, right? And to me, that's really very much what it feels like. We're going to punish her because she gets fired, all these other people lose their job. So now you've got people around who are telling the next person to come, watch what you say, girl. Don't be talking all that talk, because then I'll lose my job. So now it is not just the responsibility of me as a woman to do my best, but now I have to also carry on my back the well-being of so many other people.
Yep. And then what's even more like just wrong is when you think about all the other people, like you mentioned earlier, that got fired, a lot of them actually got placed in other slots. They might not have their own show, but they're part of a panel or I have not heard of where she gets to be a part of a panel or she gets to appear on another show. It's just like, you're done.
Yeah.
And that's what's really disheartening. You know, when you talked about slavery, it reminds me of visiting the Legacy Museum, that's a part of the Equal Justice Initiatives project. And I was thinking about how I was reading about, you know, Ida B. Wells. That's what she was. She was what Joy Reid is today.
Yeah.
And how she was talking about the disdain, the disgust, the immorality of lynching and how awful it was, and how she did a piece on a woman who was lynched because she killed the man who was considered her master that raped her from the age of 14 to 19. And she was lynched as a public basically declaration to say that if you did this would happen. Now, mind you, she wasn't able to have an actual fair trial and case to say that she truly did what she did.
Right.
It was just assumed that she did it and that she was hung, and Ida B. Wells was just fearlessly speaking out against it, so much so that she got threats on her own life and had to move out of Memphis to Chicago to continue to speak out. So my encouragement to Joy and others, we've been dealing with this since the beginning of time. There's nothing new under the sun, but even in the midst of the threat, don't be silent. Continue to speak out for what is happening in our country.
And I just want to end with this quote. It says, well-behaved women seldom make history. Well-behaved women seldom make history. And so sometimes playing by the rules, you think it'll keep you safe. And if I do what they want me to do, speak your mind. Say what you need to say. Speak boldly truth and justice. And God will take care of you. So to all the Joy Reids out there, the ones who were told they talk too much in class, the ones who spoke up against something, everyone's like, oh, why don't you just be quiet? To all those girls, out there who always knew what was going on and could tell a good story, you keep being what God has called you to be. Keep using your voice for good. Keep using your voice. Don't let anybody silence you.
Yes. And on that, we're going to get even more in our feelings.
Yes.
Lord have mercy. Stay tuned. You don't want to miss this.
You don't want to miss this next segment, In My Feelings.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.
So we are back. We're back with our final segment, In My Feelings. And coming out of this last segment where we talked about Joy Reid, I definitely can resonate with this next topic, the angry Black woman, right?
Lord
because
Jesus.
when we speak passionately, when we speak out about something, we get this label that, we're the angry Black woman. So, Marcia, I know that you practice law. You are a professor. You have a doctorate. You're an elder. And so that means that there are times where you have to stand on business, right? So have you ever been called the angry Black woman? How do you deal with that when you're in spaces where you have to be passionate?
Yeah, so first of all, I don't like angry Black women. I don't know who started the term. I don't know who coined the phrase. Whoever did, it's just terrible. And one of the main reasons why I don't like it is because men, not just white men, Black men too, which really just makes my heart sad.
Yeah.
Assume that every black female, unless you just don't say anything at all, and we can hardly understand what you're saying, a lot of times it's an assumption that you're angry black woman. And it's like, but I'm not going to give you that. But it's literally assumed that you will give that. And that's just so disturbing. Because personally, I'm not a type of person, I don't like to put people in categories and boxes and stereotypes. I like to give you a chance to be authentically you. And then after that chance, I make a decision, a determination as to whether you fit that stereotype or you don't. So, I mean, professionally, of course you're labeled, when you're in spaces, you're labeled as the angry black woman. You're labeled as the person that, okay, maybe she's going to say something. She's going to have an attitude about things. I mean, again, what's the worst is when it's by black people.
Yeah.
That's like the literal worst. It's like right now, as I'm talking, I am a very passionate and theatrical person in my talking, but my talking does not tell you what I'm really feeling or thinking. I'm just theatrical. I get it naturally. If you met my mother, if you met my grandmother, like we can, my whole family can give you a great show. We just are, that's just who we are. We are expressive. We are communicative, but we're not mad. Like, I'm not mad at all. Like, I literally am not mad. Actually, when I'm mad, I'm actually quiet.
Yes.
So I get that from my dad's side. Like, when we're mad, like, we shut down. Like, you know, you're like, okay, she's usually smiling. Because usually I'm always smiling. I'm always cool, jovial, expressive. But when I'm like, Now I'm mad.
Now I'm mad.
Now I'm angry. I mean, and that's just me personally. Some people are the opposite. Some people are more theatrical and more boisterous and, you know, just more rah-rah, you know.
Rah-rah.
So, but yes, to your question, yes, it's always assumed that in the classroom, not so much. Actually, I think when you speak with some type of presence, when you speak with authority, it holds people attention.
Absolutely.
So when you're presenting and when you're speaking or teaching a class, is not perceived that way. But in spaces where it's typically where it's male dominated or is female dominated of a different race, then it can be assumed that you have attitude. Right. Now, usually when you're in a space with just black women, talking like this is just normal because we all kind of talk like this. So it's not really assumed that you have an attitude when you talk with your hands or when you say certain things. But you do professionally, you have to sometimes tailor who you are, what you are, and how you are. And it is what it is, honestly.
So, you know, for me, my issue with the angry black woman is it weaponizes natural emotions. And I don't think that that's fair, right? So if I am passionate, I'm an angry black woman. But like, why don't I get to be angry? Like, why is anger an unacceptable emotion because I'm black?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So like, if a Caucasian woman or an Asian woman goes into a store because the person didn't give her change back.
Well, now they call them Karens. But
and so she goes into the store and she's very upset because she gave them a $20 bill and she only got $2 back. She thought it was a 10, and now she's in there, she's angry. This is a angry customer.
Right. We're not considering her a woman or anything.
She's an angry customer. She didn't get her change back. But if I go in there and I'm like, you didn't give me my change, this is unacceptable. I'm an angry black woman. But like, it weaponizes emotions that they need room to be able to be there. If you smash into the back of my car with my kids in the car, I'm telling you now, I'm getting out and I'm mad. Why? Because you put my kids in danger because you were being reckless. I get to be angry.
Or don't you hate, this is what it just irritates the life out of me. Like, it happens in the church sometimes too. Like when you go to a restaurant or establishment and they did the wrong. You haven't even said anything and they're like, well, I can get the manager. I'll just go get the manager. You're like, wait, what?
I didn't
even say anything.
I'm not mad yet, but I'm about to be.
You're preparing for a showdown that's not going to even go down. Like you're anticipating my reaction to be one of anger, and I did nothing, and you're you're already like saying, oh, I'm going to go get this, because you're grouping me and you're labeling me. And that's the problem that I have. And it stems from slavery.
Absolutely.
Literally, when we were brought over into this country, it was easier to label us, to separate us, to objectify us so that you can control us. But I don't like the fact that angry Black woman takes the individualism away from me. Yeah. It takes the humanity away from me.
And that's what it is, weaponizing emotions.
And it creates this character that doesn't even exist for a lot of people.
Yes, but even if it did exist, here's my thing. Why is anger a bad thing? Right? So like
it's natural.
So like even in the Bible it says be angry and sin not. So anger is a allowable and justifiable and anger sometimes is an appropriate reaction to a situation. But so what happens is we label Black people as angry to perpetuate the narrative that we should be afraid of Black people.
Correct.
Right? Because anger, it lends itself to violence. They think anger, violence, anger, fear. And so if I can paint the Black woman as someone who's angry, then I can paint her as someone whose emotions don't matter. So then I can minimize your emotions. You're just an angry Black woman. No, I'm mad because I was done wrong. I was harmed. I was hurt. I get to be angry about those things. But when you make my anger seem irrational, then you take away from me, like you said, my right to be human. Yeah. So when I go into a establishment, a business, a doctor's office, and I demand adequate health care, I'm not angry. I am asking for what I am owed as a human. But when you say I'm an angry Black woman, then you're taking away my humanity and my humanness to be upset about something.
It's a double-edged sword. At the end of the day, it's a double-edged sword. You know, if you're innocent, it's assumed, and then if you are angry, it's exaggerated, right? And it's intentional because what oppressors know for a fact is that if you get Black people on one accord in any given situation, it's a wrap. Yeah. Like you are going to lose every single time. So my tactic is to invalidate. My tactic is to
separate.
My tactic is to incarcerate. My tactic is to make you out to be something that you're not.
Demonize,
to be
weaponize.
Deceptive, right? So that I can then retaliate.
Absolutely.
And the retaliation isn't necessary. So I'm looking in the camera. I need our people, first of all. I'm going to start with us. I need Black people to stop using angry Black woman as a weapon against each other. And then I need everybody else, let's let this term die in 2025. Let's stop assuming, right, that a person cannot have certain emotions or that a person has those emotions.
Absolutely.
Let's treat people as individuals, as humans, and stop using this label because it causes more harm than good.
And you know, as we get ready to wrap up this section, you know, my thing is when you see a woman who's angry, instead of labeling her as angry, ask the question, what happened? Because anger doesn't just manifest. I don't just wake up in the morning. Like they think Black women just wake up mad. That is not true. Black women are some of the most forgiving, long-suffering, women, people
through it to the end.
And so for a woman to project anger, it had to go through the filter of hurt first. And so especially for our men who are watching, like when that woman gets to a point where she's angry, before you label her, before you demonize her, before you weaponize her, ask if she's okay. Ask what happened. Ask, hey, like, I see you're really angry. Like, what happened? Tell me your story. Can I hear you? And can I tell you the truth? That is so disarming. It is so freeing to be able to say, I'm angry because of this, and know that you're not going to judge me or look at me. Listen, ladies, everybody can't handle your story. Everybody can't handle that. But I will say that I think it's so important for as well as we as women and our people to stop that narrative, but for men to be secure enough to allow a woman to feel her feelings without saying, "Oh, you're angry. Oh, you always got an attitude. Oh, you always." Just let her feel her feelings.
At the end of the day, it boils down to the commandment that God given us, and it's split in twofold. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Next time you see a Black woman, treat her how you would want to be treated.
That's good. Listen, we have come to the end of our show for this week, this Friday night. It's been a good Friday night, hasn't it?
Yes. We're super excited. We want you to stay locked in. Again, this month is just shout out to the ladies, but anybody can join. Anybody can listen. Look, we want this platform to be one of discussion, of learning, and we want you to share it. We want our numbers to just transcend to something that we've never seen before,
it's
right?
all the way up in 2025.
Yes. And let us know what you're interested in, what you want to hear. If you want merch, because we're thinking about possibly maybe doing something like that. And we want to go viral, right?
Yes.
We see all of everybody else going viral. Let's go viral with the good news,
Let's
right?
go viral.
Thank you for tuning in to our Cube Table Talks, where we keep it real,
where we keep it relevant, and where we keep it raw. See you next time.
Bye.
Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better. Yeah, you better.